Starting. Hey guys, welcome to episode number 3. We are super excited that you guys were able to make it and join us. And what we're going to do today is one of the things that we're really focused on is we want to pick different types of product categories. Some have higher ticket values, some are lower price points, some are technical products, some are consumable products. And we want to give a lot of variety because the research that Lorenzo does, the customer mining stuff, we want to demonstrate that it applies to all different verticals. And similarly, the process that I do for selling angles should also apply to all verticals. So today we are going to talk about a hot sauce brand that you may have heard about. It's called Truff, and they really blew up in popularity 2 years ago. And we are in a very unique period in time where consumers are more aware of international flavors and flavored. Like this is truffle, and truffle is not really a big part historically of American cuisine, but it's very popular, of course, in Italy and other places in the world. And so there are lots of smart food entrepreneurs who are now kind of incorporating these unique flavors into products that they're creating. And hot sauces have also become very popular over the last 10 years, 20 years even. And so I want to start off by giving some context about what this company does, and just so you guys know what it is before we start the process. So first of all, they're selling a hot sauce. You can see the price point is $18, which is pretty expensive for as far as hot sauces are concerned. They also have a lot of social proof. So they have like 5,500 reviews, which is what we were looking for in terms of reviews mining. On the page, you'll see that they kind of talk about in very brief terms, they talk about what the hot sauce does. They specify it's vegan, it's gluten-free. They mentioned the Scoville hot unit or heat units. I don't even know what this is, but there's a flame symbol, so I know it's something to do with heat. And then over here, there is some really good videos, and they really are very good at this stuff. They really do a good job storytelling through video. And then over here, they have, just the calorie thing. It's a very simple, there is some content over here. Is it even good? How hot is it?
Q&A.
Yeah, I don't think this one's working.
Yeah, I had the same issue. I think you have to close each accordion first.
Okay.
And then, which right. is like from a usability standpoint,
right.
Can definitely be improved.
And then they have celebrities. I think he's a famous chef. So they have nice content over here, and like they have lots of reviews. So what we did was, as we typically do, we wanted to study the page and really think about like, how do we sell this product more effectively? As I showed you, the content on the page is very limited. And so it's really designed for skimmers. So I'm going to go through my part really quick, and then Lorenzo's going to talk about his part. So I think it's really important. And I want you to think about what we're talking about in the context of your own business. So think deeply about skimmers and diggers. I think oftentimes what happens is, as designers, as brands, we look at our landscape and we say, look, we notice that the word count on websites are going down, so we must follow that as well. Sometimes we also can even send out reviews to customers, and we can ask them like, do you want more detail or do you want less detail? I can give you the answer. You don't even have to send the survey question. I can tell you what the answer is. There is no customer in the world who will say, I want more details. They want less details, because in a very abstract way, we all want less information. But when the rubber hits the road, when you're about to pull out a credit card, we behave very differently than what we respond in a survey. So this creates a real challenge for the marketer. Like, am I dealing with the skimmers? Am I dealing with the diggers? Who am I dealing with? And we think there's a clever way of dealing with both of them simultaneously. I think another thing I want to mention over here is that this mental model that we use for skimmers and diggers, one definition of skimmers are people who like to read short content, and diggers are people who like to read long form content. I think that's a valid definition, but it actually masks the real complexity. I think another way of looking at it is that skimmers are believers. The reason why someone reads less content is because they, are not super skeptical. Skeptical people read long form content, and diggers, on the other hand, are skeptics. So To give some context, having done this for a long time, I recognize that skimmers are a pretty big majority. So they're at least 60% of your audience, if not more, depending on your category. Like for hot sauce, it might be even higher than that. So they are a pretty big group. And when I did a word count analysis on this page, it was like 341 words, which is on the low side, total in the whole page from top to bottom. But even though that's true that skimmers are the majority, here is the thing. The reason why I want us to focus on the diggers is because diggers have right now, for most websites, have very, very low conversion rates. And so a 10% lift in diggers is worth a lot more than a small. I guess another way of looking at it is that the number of people that are not buying who are diggers is so much that there's much more room to increase conversion rates versus skimmers that are already believers and they're already converting at a certain rate. So we need to really focus on diggers. Now the question becomes, how do we serve the diggers and the skimmers on this page the same way at the same time? There are two techniques for the diggers. So one technique is, let's go back to that page. You'll notice over here, they talked about how hot this hot sauce is. Let me just ask a simple question. When you are buying hot sauce, Lorenzo, I'll ask you this question. When you are buying a hot sauce, what is the number one criteria that you are thinking about?
How delicious the hot sauce is, and together the same level of how hot it is, because I can't handle too much hot sauce.
That's a really important criteria. So the spice level is the predominant factor for a hot sauce. The problem is that for a skimmer will look at this and say, oh, this looks fine. This looks like 2500 SHU, I'm sold. But a digger will be like, what the hell is this? Like some diggers might say, I don't even know what SHU means. Some diggers might say that, how hot is this compared to the other hot sauces that I have in my house? Like Lorenzo said, he doesn't want to buy something that's going to be like 10 times hotter. He wants to just challenge his taste buds a little bit, but and so it's like a brick wall for the diggers. And so our solution is very simple. Convert this into a link. And when you click on it, show a light box. And now what's happening is that the only people who are clicking on it are people who want to know more about the heat aspect. So talk in great detail about the heat aspect. Similarly, over here, if you look at the thing, it says our sauce is curated blend of ripe chili peppers, organic agave nectar, black truffle, and savory spices. This combination of ingredients delivers a flavor profile unprecedented to hot sauce. So basically it's saying there is no hot sauce that does what we are doing. Now, a skimmer would look at this and say, wow, that's really impressive. I'm sold. A digger is a skeptic. They're like, what do you mean? Like, how did you figure this out? And so there's an opportunity here for us to convert this into a link and give them contextualized information. The great thing about converting keywords into link is that we are not increasing the default word count on the page. But for someone who clicks on the link, we know what their intent is. They would not be clicking the link if they didn't want to challenge this statement of unprecedented to hot sauce. So that's kind of what I've kind of mentioned over here. Because one of the questions, going back to this point over here, the user is asking how hot is 2500 hot SHU? And also people have points of references. Like in my case, Tabasco is something that we've always had in our house. So I know how hot Tabasco is. So is it 5 times hotter than Tabasco? Is it twice as hot as Tabasco? I need a point of reference. And so I'm not sure how they want to benchmark, but I think their team should think about this. The other thing that complicates matters a little bit, I don't know why this is the case, but when you come to this page, they talk about 2500 SHU, but in their drop down, they're actually giving, so they have this product over here, which is the Truff hot sauce. But here they also have 3 other options that they're giving. This is the hotter sauce. How do they expect a consumer to say, I'm going to buy the hotter sauce when they don't have any context? So I think there's some clarity that's required over here. It's just a minor point. I don't want to spend too much time on it. But the key thing over here is what about someone who comes to this page and wants a lot more content? They want to learn a lot more about what makes Truff special. The problem is that if you look at their design, there isn't that much real estate available to us to actually talk about that. We might want to put a question over here, but people don't scroll that far down. We can't really increase this content too much because they have this video. So there are some limitations there. Plus the client they are a very visual brand. And so they may not actually like the idea of like putting a whole bunch of text over here. So the idea is, let's keep that content the same, but let's create a mechanism for the digger where the digger can click on. So I'll just show you one quick example from another website. So like on this page, there is a button over here, how we did it. Now, if someone is not interested in this content, they will completely ignore it. But if someone is interested, we are now showing a light box pop-up where we are showing a crap ton of information. And what I really love about this is that it doesn't break the design of the page. So the page design is exactly the same, but now we've shown a lot more content, and it's easy to sell this to clients as well. So if you are working for a brand where you're trying to add more content, don't worry about changing the design of the page. Just focus on kind of using this mechanism to show that extra content. So Lorenzo, before I get into selling angles, let me just, do you want to add something here? Any thoughts you want to add?
Yeah, so there's a few things that you mentioned that I want to add on. So if you actually share my my reviews mining document. So just a quick reminder here, what I've done with this document is I have gone into the Travs.com's website and I grabbed, around 150 reviews, 200 reviews. I eyeballed them and I basically bucketed each review into multiple themes. So the tabs at the bottom, you see I've bucketed all these reviews into like pain points, benefits, competitors, pairings, context, and so on, right? Just to understand what are the main topics, what are the main themes that people are talking about in the reviews. Now, one of these themes is pairings. Do you want to open up that one? So what this what this theme is basically like the list of the food, the type of food that people mention in the reviews to have used the sauce with, right? And as you can see, there's a lot of food that are actually being used with the hot sauce. I actually think some of them made me cringe a little bit, like hot sauce with pasta was a little bit it felt like a stab in the heart as Italian, to be honest. Some of them are like, okay,
what about pizza though? What about pizza? What do you think about hot sauce with pizza?
No, absolutely not. But even like lasagna, like who has spices with lasagna? I just get goosebumps just to think about it. But anyway, so as you can see, obviously like a hot sauce is not being eaten alone, or I bet there are like a very small percentage of people that might be so obsessed with hot sauce that they might just like, oh, let's try it alone. But hot sauce has to come with some type of food, right? And one thing that I noticed right away is that the product page, especially above the fold, only has one image, right? Just the image of the bottle, and that's it. It could be like tomato sauce. It could be like anything else. We don't know anything about this product, right? So what I thought it could be interesting is add additional images. You can put them like below. You can have some little tiles just below with all the actually food that people have mentioned in the reviews. Or you can even send a survey to the current clients asking, what is the main food that you use the sauce with, right? And then you just show the photos of it.
Not to break your train of thought, but I think oftentimes this could actually be a conversion tactic, because you're giving people ideas that people are like, oh, I never even thought about using this with, XYZ, right? And so you're giving them ideas on how to use the hot sauce,
Yep. And then the other thing I thought, besides the photos of the food that they pair the hot sauce with, like, how about photos of it, like people? Like, I was expecting somebody to like drool at the taste of the hot sauce, right? I didn't see any person's face in the photos, right? people use this mirroring approach when they look at their images. They imagine themselves consuming the product, right?
Actually,
So
this is a good point. I'm going to look around in the website. Continue with what you're saying. I'm going to see if there's any.
no, that's like, using images of people.
See, look at this.
Can
Look at
definitely
this. They
help.
already
Yeah,
have. They already have these kind of assets. So it's not like they don't have the assets.
totally.
Continue with what you're saying.
On category page, actually, if you go on category page, just go and click shop all turfs. Scroll down. There's a photo of, scroll down a little bit more. There you go, with mac and cheese, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they have that on category page, but somehow they forgot to add it on product page as well. The other thing that I wanted to mention about the product images, if you go back to my reviews mining document, so there's one tab called benefits. Basically, in this tab, I collected all the different insights of why people love the product, what are the main benefits, and so on, right? And obviously, they have great flavor and taste.
Wow, look at the packaging. Look at the importance of packaging.
Exactly that. And the packaging is actually amazing. It looks like, it's like a super premium packaging, right?
It's like a Rolls Royce of,
Yeah, somebody said it's a Lamborghini of hot sauce in the product reviews.
Yeah.
But what I thought about is, first of all, and we can go, into that in a second, but this is a $18 product, hot sauce, right? Like if you compare with the competitors that actually people are familiar with, like Sriracha, Tallulah, Tapatio, and so on, this is like super high premium brand.
It's probably like 2 or 3 times more expensive, right?
Yeah. And so I would definitely add an image of the packaging, because again, it looks super slick. It looks super.
And they already have it on their category page, right? So if you go to all troughs, they have this, like I saw a video over here where they showed the. Look at this.
There you go. Yeah,
it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
And over absolutely. Here, and I think so they've got like, and they got some really interesting animated videos as well. There are lots of these, and I think this is. I want to make a point over here, Lorenzo. I think this is a mistake. Like, look at this beautiful, such beautiful storytelling. Of course, it's not the same product, but one of the mistakes that I've noticed that brands make a lot. Sometimes I tell them about an idea, and I'll say, you've got this asset on this page. You should include it in the product page. And they're like, that seems redundant. We already have it in the category page. And one of the things they don't realize is that the way shoppers behave is that when they first come to a website, they're navigating very, very fast. Then they come to a product page and they come to a grinding halt because they know beyond the product page they have to pay. So people are not spending time on this page and watching these videos. They've most likely missed them. So don't be scared to repeat critical assets. And also, even on a page, people are not paying attention to all of your page. A lot of your page is like dark matter for them. So don't be scared. Don't assume that people are seeing it. You need to repeat it, especially if it's a principal selling idea.
And in general, people's memory span is actually very short. And if you think about it, it competes with other elements within the site. So they might see that element, but now the memory of that element is competing with the memory of every other elements, right? So by repeating it across different pages or across different section of the page, it stays in their brain much easier, right?
That's right. We call this technique redundancy. So we repeat the same thing. The keys, sometimes clients say, like if a client has if a client has a very specific feature that's very unique about them, I repeat it 3 times on the page, and the client says, why the hell are you repeating 3 times? Because you want to subliminally influence the buyer. When the person reads something 3 times, in advertising, I think they have a statistic that says people have to see an ad 7 times before it registers to them. So we want it to register, So back to you, Lorenzo.
There's the other kind of so we spoke about packaging. So show images of packaging to show how this is a premium brand. So the other thing, if you go in the anxiety tab.
That's my favorite tab.
Yeah, so in the anxiety tab, I basically put all the different reasons that people have mentioned that they were anxious about or not sure about before purchasing, right? And again, this is not as, obviously, we don't have access to Traft's data. This is just based on reviews. But this is like organic anxieties and organic objections that people had before purchasing. The classic structure of that anxiety, what that anxiety looks like is, oh, at the beginning, I was a little bit hesitant about buying the product because of X reason. Then I saw Y, and so then I felt better and I bought the product, right? So as you can see, 79% of people has an anxiety, the fact that the product was too expensive, which, to be honest, the whole objection around pricing is very common, Rishi. Like, you know, I'm sure it's something that you've come across as well.
Number one.
Yep, but in this case, it does make sense because it's an $18 hot sauce. It's expensive, right? So I think there's an opportunity here to increase the perceived value of the product with product images, sure. But one little tactic I would totally do is I would actually send the customers a survey to customers, right? Saying, why did you buy a product that was so expensive when you could have bought Sriracha for much cheaper, or other brands for much cheaper? I probably wouldn't formulate the question in this way, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, I want them to give me reasons on why they bought such an expensive product when there's Sriracha. I'm not sure about the pricing of Sriracha and Cholula and Tapatio, but it's definitely much cheaper. So I want them to sell me on why they decided to go with that more expensive product.
And you know what's really interesting? I want to just add something over here because this is a very interesting point. So one of the techniques that I like to use in conversion optimization is my favorite technique, because pricing is the most important criteria. One of my favorite techniques is to actually add a button over here or a link over here that says, you know, why is it priced the way it is, or, you know, and what's really interesting is that would actually not work for Truff. And I'll tell you why. Because Truff is positioning themselves as a Rolls Royce, as a Mercedes. When you go to the Mercedes dealership, the salesperson is not telling you this is a good value for money. It is kind of, so this is their challenge. How do we communicate our value without like blatantly saying that we are, this is a good value for money, because it doesn't synchronize with their brand. So the way you do that is by really accentuating the ingredients and the romance of the ingredients. So don't focus on telling people that, we know it's twice as expensive as tomato or whatever it is, but we have good quality ingredients. That is not the language that their consumers expect from them. But if you can talk about their ultra premium ingredients, then that's one way of doing the justification in a back way. Okay, sorry. Back to you.
To add to that, from the reviews, I actually discovered that there's this recipe book that comes with a product, and I didn't know that. And that's free, right? That's a free product that comes with another product, right? So that's another opportunity to actually increase the perceived value, because Cholula or Tapatio, they don't come with another free product, right? So when the person is looking at the price, like, okay, $18, it looks premium, I get it, and so on. Oh, but it also comes with another thing, which is like, oh, I get something for free as well that potentially has some cost for the company, and but has some pricing, right?
That's a really good point. As a pricing strategist, you want to always compare, you always want to transform an apples to apples comparison into an apples to oranges comparison. Because if they're simply comparing another hot sauce with this, they're saying that, oh, this is $5 more. But if it's this hot sauce plus recipe book, now how do you compare?
They're confused, right? They're like, oh Jesus, I can't do apples with apples. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
What do you think? I have a question, Rishi. Go back to the product page. What do you think about the product description? Like those, 2.5 lines of product description.
I mean, the actual description.
The copy. Yeah, the copy about that.
So I think this is something that I actually will cover this in my selling angles section. Maybe I can switch over to selling angles, or what do you think?
Yeah, let's do that.
So I think I want to kind of get to the heart of the matter. And so I want to talk about selling angles. This is really sits at the heart of the way I kind of think about copywriting. This is why I didn't cover deconstruction in this episode, because I think that is, we'll cover it later. So one of the things that I'm thinking about is that what we know is that a user that comes to this page, I think this is a very important mental model for our listeners. When a user comes to a page, look at the analytics data. What you will find is that the amount of linger time on the page is typically going to be less than, like, I don't know, it's going to maybe like between 1 and 2 minutes. And I'm being generous over here. So the marketer needs to frame the question differently. I think sometimes marketers say, think about like, what are all the wonderful things I can talk about this product? And they come up with a list of 50 things. But the thing is that the user is probably only going to linger for 60 seconds to 120 seconds. So you have to really ask yourself, what are the most important things that I want to make sure that this user understands versus what are all the things I can talk about? And so we have to be we have to really pay a lot of attention to the selling angles and the curation around it. And the selling angles have to be very different than how other brands are selling the same product, because people get bored. Like if you say, if like the thing about copywriting is that, like in SaaS, like all companies nowadays describe what their product does in the same way. And so people start ignoring that. So you have to figure out a different way of saying it. So what I did was for this brand, after studying the page, I kind of zeroed in on 4 selling angles, and I want to talk about them very briefly. The first one is a romantic explanation of the premium flavor ingredients. So I really love how wine companies describe their wine bottles. I kind of look at this as being a bottle of wine. It's the same fucking price as apologies for language. It's the same price as a bottle of wine. So why not describe it that way? And I went to this wine brand's website, and it's called Miomi, and they explain it in a very interesting way. So they say, Miomi, their Cabernet, they say deep ruby color. The wine opens to reveal expressive aromas of juicy blackberry, boysenberry, and bramble, along with notes of toasty vanilla and graham cracker. The full flavors are highlighted in a plush, velvety mouthfeel with a long finish. So romantic. And I would really experiment with using that. And I would really, instead of like their selling angle right now, it's kind of like, it's not bad, it's just not excellent. A curated blend of ripe chili peppers, organic agave nectar, black truffle. It's definitely designed for quick and to the point. And I think there's an opportunity here for them to really explore this romantic explanation of their premium flavor ingredients. And also, this goes back to the point Lorenzo made. We're selling something for $18. We kind of, one of the challenges is that when you're selling a food item, you want to write copy in a way where they can actually taste the food before they buy it. Because remember, once they buy it, they have to wait 5 days to get the product. So how can I write story in a way where, like when I read this, I could actually literally taste the grapes. And so how can we write the story in that way? So that's my first thing. My second selling angle, by the way, I should stop here. Lorenzo, any questions about this? Does this make sense?
No, this is good. This is good. We should do an episode of about wines, because I think there's a lot of very good insights that we can get from.
I love it.
How some companies sell wine.
So this is the second selling angle, and I love this. I've used this for a lot of my clients. I love this idea of, so consumers, when people are buying something, and I actually explained this over here, the harder it is. This is a very interesting human psychology. The harder it is to do something, the more people appreciate it. So, when I'm buying if you look at age statements, right, and whiskeys, typically a whiskey that is like 20 years old is or scotch that 20 years old is way more expensive than scotch that's 5 years old. Why is it? Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot more effort. The perceived value changes, So what I want to do here is that I know that the truff people must have tried different combinations and they must have failed a lot. So if we can kind of dramatize that and let the user know that this combination that they are seeing is the result of us doing like 5,000 taste tests, I'm just making this up, it increases the perceived value. And, instead of talking about, because they are not, this is a very interesting skill of a copywriter. You want to always contextualize the way you are communicating something. They are not marketing this as being a hot sauce that will burn your hair off. They're not focused on the heat factor of the sauce. They're really focused on the balance. So I want to dramatize the balance. So I want to talk about the difficulty in getting the balance between the agave nectar and the truffle just right, because if you get it wrong, it's too truffly or too sweet or whatever it is. I think that is a very interesting selling angle as well. The
Can I
third
add
one,
one thing?
yes.
Sorry, can I add one thing to that? So one of the pain points that people were talking about in the reviews was that the product was too sweet, right? I actually think these guys have an opportunity to A/B test product ingredients to see how certain metrics change based on that. And the metrics that I probably will look at are, repurchase rate, or return rate, or number of reviews that you submit. I mean, obviously, it's not like a normal A/B test that you do, because this requires product changes. But I think there's an opportunity here to actually see how making changes to the ingredients changes the lifetime value and the growth overall.
I love it. That's really cool. That's really, very clever. That's awesome. The next selling angle, the third selling angle, is surprise for friends, because I think that, food is a very social experience. So I've kind of explained this over here. Truff is bought by food enthusiasts. We know this. So this is one of the techniques we like to use. We like to make creative guesses about the buyer. I don't need to, this is why it's very controversial. I don't like to do research. I like to kind of apply common sense backwards. And it's not always accurate, but it can get me pretty far. So we know that truff is bought by food enthusiasts. People who like to explore new food, food is inherently very social. So it's very likely, I can't be certain about it, but it's likely that people who are buying this thing are also have other friends who appreciate that. Typically, I like to hang out with other people that are similar to me, which means that the sharing angle can be used for that. So, so I thought this is why I put as my third selling angle. And then the fourth selling angle is surprise your tongue. Ultimately food is about how do we challenge our tongue in interesting ways? So it is kind of related. This is a point I wanted to make over here, because the first one, romantic explanation of our ingredients, it sounds like that's very similar to this one. And actually, I want to give some context here. Don't think of selling angles as being mutually exclusive. It's not like selling angle 1 has to be completely different from selling angle 4. They're actually going after the same idea of flavor, but they're attacking it from a different angle. And that's why you can have both of them on the page. And I think, so Lorenzo, I'm done with my selling angles. Now we can move on to your review mining as well. So any questions about this?
No, I actually had few points to make. If you go back to the reviews mining.
Yes.
So if you were talking about gifting, there is one tab called persona. Actually, no, I apologize. There's one tab called context. Yeah, so basically, in this tab, I basically checked what kind of is the context that people buy the product for, right? And actually, a lot of people mentioned to be buying the product as a gift. Could be like, boyfriend gifts or Christmas gift or birthday gift, whatever, right? So I actually think there is, I would probably try to understand a little bit more, like how many customers that actually buy a product actually buy because of a gift. So probably I will run a survey around that. But I think there's an opportunity here on the product page to add a small upsell where you have a gift wrapping upsell. It's just like a small tick that they have right now. They have it on the cart, which, by the way, if you look at the icon, if you go to the product page, the icon of the cart, I think it's kind of strange. Top right, yeah, the icon is kind of strange. It doesn't look like a cart to me. It looks like a rock or something.
Yeah, it's a truffle. It's a truffle.
Oh yeah,
it's the same as the bottle cap.
Oh, I see. But I think there's an opportunity to add that small upsell. It could be, I think it's $5 or $4 wrap, which, you know, yeah, it's already on cart, but not everybody sees the cart, right? And then the other thing I thought is, if you go, actually, this is not something that as I recorded in my reviews mining, but a lot of people mentioned the word addicted. I'm addicted to this product, right? And whenever I see the word addicted, I think about one thing only: repeat buyers, right? And you like almost like building a habit, right? So what I would do in if I were Truff, I would probably look at their CRM, and I would look at how many people actually buy the product again, right? Because I think there is an opportunity here, especially for, so if you go to the persona section, this is basically like the type of people that I identified that buy the product. And the top one is the hot sauce fanatic and lover, right? And in this category, a lot of people mentioned, oh, I have my kitchen, you know, with like over 20 hot sauce, right? So I think there's an opportunity to actually introduce a subscription offering, because right now they only offer one-time purchase. But if there's so many, you know, hot sauce fanatics, there's an opportunity to actually have them continue buy on a monthly, weekly, whatever, right? And what I would do, the best way to introduce is actually help them understand how much hot sauce they're actually currently consuming at the moment. And based on that, you recommend how many, you know, after how many weeks you actually can get your sauce shipped to. The last thing I want to mention, you previously talked about the different different products that they have in the dropdown. This is just a small UX thing that I noticed. So first of all, whenever there's multiple selections, it's only like 3. It doesn't really make sense to use a dropdown, because you're actually hiding those products below, like under a dropdown. So I wonder how many people actually don't click through it and only see that there's only the Truff hot sauce, right? So what I would rather use is just simple selector, and then the selector below with all the different quantities. What I noticed is that obviously the more bottles you buy, the lower the price per bottle, but they could emphasize that much more and emphasize how much money you're actually going to save per bottle the more bottles you actually buy.
Yeah.
There's one. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Now, there was one last thing. So the other interesting tab I had was first trigger. It's the one, yeah, first trigger. It's the one before the last.
Wait, this one?
Before, no. The one before the last, all the way on the right. First trigger. So you have, that one. Sorry. Yeah, so what first trigger is, basically here, I listed down all of the different first triggers, like how people came across this brand, right? And as you can see, we have 18% with ads. And the second kind of like I would say trigger, how they found out about Truff, it's actually very interesting. It's Opera, right? Opera has a 2020 Opera's favorite products, with just a little list of products in different categories, right? So, I mean, Opera is super famous across every single neighborhood in America. It's probably like one of the most famous people in the US. So she adds a lot of credibility. I actually saw a quote from Opera on her website about Truff. So I would totally incorporate that testimonial into the product page.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Great point. There is one last thing I wanted to mention. I keep on saying one last thing.
No, it's good.
This is not really related to conversion. So if you go to my to this spreadsheet, I'm gonna share this spreadsheet with you, Rishi, because I want to show everybody this note that I go all the way down, all the way down. Yeah, so let me read this out loud. This is a quote straight from reviews. So it's somebody that, it's like a customer that wrote this, right? So when I first tried this sauce on my chicken, I wasn't loving it. The flavor was okay. So I tried mixing it with riced cauliflower, and oh my God, might be my new favorite meal. Okay. So what this tells me, this is just an hypothesis that I have, Rishi. And again, this is not an idea related to conversion, but more like post-purchase. But my hypothesis is that people might not like the sauce if they try it with certain food, while they might like the sauce more if they try it with other type of food. So what happens is that some people try it with one type of food, they don't like it, they don't try it anymore, right? Other people, they just tried with the right food, they love it, and they keep on buying it, right? So I think there's an opportunity to figure what products don't pair well, what food don't pair well with this sauce, and basically onboard people. This could be done with like a simple flyer, or it could be like a sort of like onboarding kit that tells customers how to best use the sauce, what kind of pairings to use the sauce with. Because my concern is that if people try the sauce with the products that don't really pair very well, they're not going to buy again, right? While if we influence the products, the food that they try the sauce with, we want to funnel people towards great experience, right? So I think there's an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think another thing they should do is, I just thought of this last idea, is that they should have, one of the things that when I think about the psychology of someone who's buying for the first time, one of the things, especially with food, I'm thinking about how will I react to the taste of it. Like that's the primary driver. So I'm imagining it's a very simple setup. I think these guys are based in LA, and what they could do is they could have like a message that you could send out to people who've never tried hot truff or hot sauce, who like hot sauces. Invite them over to a venue, a small little venue, and on that venue they could have like different, like, chips and eggs and different things, and you add your hot sauce, and they record the whole series, the whole sequence of people's reactions, and they could then slice it up into short videos. I think for me as a buyer to see someone trying it for the very first time and their reaction, I think it will, like, you talk about mirroring, right? I will be able to mirror that, and I'll be saying, I want this, and I don't think it's super expensive to do.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I think events could be big for these guys. If you go back to like the pairings part, a lot of people mention about tacos, mention about burgers. I think from research, well, not from research, from reviews, a lot of people discovered a product because they got invited to a party and the host had that sauce, right? And to me, you're basically like, it's like there's a dog walking in the street with a super flourish, piece of clothes, right? Everybody's like, oh, that color can be seen by everybody, right? So now you have your customers that do the marketing for you at parties, at tailgating. Some people mentioned about, oh, I discovered this at a tailgating event, right? So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think there's an opportunity to leverage those situations.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this is good. I think you found some really good things in the reviews mining. I want to practice to kind of make these episodes slightly shorter so we can kind of, is there anything else you want to cover? I'm happy to.
No, that's all I got today.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you very much for participating in this yet another episode. As you'll notice, we're all constantly innovating. One of the things we've done in this video, which we plan to make standard, is give some context about the product that we're going to talk about, because I just realized that people might not know it. And then everything we do is kind of meaningless when you don't even know what we're talking about. So this is great. Please keep the comments coming in, and the likes and the shares and the subscriptions. Our goal is to have 200 subscribers, at least 400 subscribers. And we want to really talk about original content and original ideas. And yeah, thank you. Ciao, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Ciao, guys.